Pro Wrestling knows the new year 2026 set up a payoff, but every time it started to click, it cut the legs out with rush builds, blah endings, and fillers in between. Now I watched this show match by match, so in this review, I'm going to show you the exact reasons it almost turned the corner and why it never did. Now the show started off solid, but you'll see the pattern real fast, and it ends before it can mean anything. Los Intocables vs Eita and Shuji Kondo vs All Rebellion for the GHC Junior Tag Team titles I thought was a fun little sprint with some dope action. But it ended right when it needed a second gear. So I gave this one 3.25 stars. And once you feel that almost part, the show starts stacking that. Junta Miyawaki, Kazuki Fujita, Minoru Suzuki, and Shuji Taniguchi taking on Team 2000X, I thought was pretty much fine for what it was, but nothing built into a moment that really stuck. So this one settled at 2.25 stars. Now at this point, you're looking for the match that finally cashes that check in, but it gets cut short again. Will Kroos vs Saxon Huxley for the Progress Atlas title was hitting some solid stuff here, but the match felt rushed in my opinion, and it pretty much cut off the build, so this finished up at 2.5 stars. Now rushed is one thing, but next you get a match that barely even showed up. Atsushi Kotoge, Hajime Ohara, High 6'9", and Muhammad Yone versus the White Raven squad pretty much went through the motions here, but there was barely any substance that you could grab onto, so this bottomed out at just 1.25 star. Now at this point, this is where you stop waiting and start asking yourself, where's the payoff? Dragon Bane vs Alpha Wolf for the GHC national title I thought was really good for the time that they got, but that short run time that they had pretty much kept from hitting that very last gear, so it came in at just 3.5 stars. Now that match should have been the turning point in this show, but then the show drops right back to fine. Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson vs Jack Morris and Kato Kiyomiya I thought was fine, and it stayed on track, but it never added any urgency or payoff that mattered here. So this one here ended up at just 2 stars. Now at this point, the tag title match had one job: reset this whole show. Kenoh and Marufuji versus Los Tranquilos de Japon for the GHC tag titles I thought was going fine, and it mostly coasted, but that ending felt very blah, and it pretty much drained the momentum here. So this one landed at just 2.5 stars. And the next match was the easy win match, except it won't cross that line. Hiromu Takahashi vs AMAKUSA for the GHC junior title I thought was a really strong match from start to finish, but it never hit that last gear that would make it great. So for me, this ended up at 3.5 stars. So now the main event has to do what nothing else did: give you the peak. Yoshiki Inamura vs OZAWA for the GHC title I thought was a good main event that held together, but it didn't deliver the peak that the show needed, so it pretty much closed up at just 3.25 stars. And when the peak never shows up, the whole show just shrinks into your memory. I pretty much came into the show not excited because the card didn't grab me enough, but the show still needed at least one match to fully deliver. So with none of that doing that, and the filler dragging everything down with it, this pretty much ended up with a 5.25 out of 10. I don't recommend this.